What's going on, good people? Kieron here.
It's your girl Ray P here. Welcome back to another episode of the Culture Garden podcast. What's going on, Kyron?
Not too much, man. It's a pleasure. Pleasure talking to you again, as
Pleasure.
always, Rachel. I say again, like we don't talk outside of recording, but
Well,
on this platform in general,
for sure.
pleasure talking to you, man. It's the holidays. It's that time
Mm-hmm.
of the year, man. Family time,
It
which is what
is.
I consider the most, valuable. Obviously. So talking to people that I love
For
is
sure.
always important this time of the year. So thank you for blessing me with that.
I love you.
Always a pleasure.
Same,
Yeah,
same,
love you too.
same. My
Love
family
you
is on a
too.
cruise somewhere. So shout out.
Shout out to them.
Shout
Shout
out
out to
to
them,
them.
man. I've been
And shout
I've
out
been
to the
teasing.
crew that become family.
Yeah, man. I've been teasing Rachel because every time she tells me her parents on the cruise, I always ask us at the time join the cruise because that would make me happy if they were on the time join the cruise, but they're not. Unfortunately, they're not. Yeah, man. I wish that one was going on, but happy Family Day, Turkey Day, Thanksgiving, however you choose to celebrate. Hopefully, everybody had a good one.
For
Spending
sure.
time with their family and loved ones, like we just mentioned. We are officially, as you're hearing this episode, we're officially in December, which
Crazy.
is insane to think about. So, what we have 3 more episodes before we take our year-end break.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Yeah, 3. So we won't have an episode on the 26th, the day after Christmas, but we will have episodes throughout. So this is going to be the first one of that batch, and we'll get to it here in a second. But this is episode 102. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Please
Always.
continue to like, subscribe, share. Also want to keep promoting Childish Grown-Ups as they're still getting started.
Yes.
Just want to make sure that we put some good promo in them for that. We got a couple comments that I want to read too, Rachel.
Ooh.
Yeah. So we have comments from shout out to Mia.
Hey Mia.
So she commented on our last 2 episodes on YouTube. So the first one for school days, and Rachel, let me tell you something. I got a phone call from someone saying that school days is an instant classic.
Ooh.
Says an instant classic episode. Shout out to Mo. I'm gonna
Hey
give him.
Mo.
It was Mo. He called me because what his particular liking when it comes to us is he likes when we do the movies, but it also cross blends as he described it. Like it's kind
Mhm.
of there's moments where you're like, all right, is this still a movie podcast? What kind of pod? And he's like, that's the perfect combination.
Yeah.
And he likes those personal. He
Mhm.
likes hearing stories about back in the day in college and before Culture Garden. What was these two niggas like? There's a
Menaces,
lot of that, man. It was a very fun episode. I tell people it was a very personal episode in the sense
for sure.
of there were a lot of things that were said that were just for me and Rachel, and
Yeah.
those who might know it's like a lot of people out there listening might not have picked up on some of the humor that we found in
Mhm.
situations, but it was a lot of fun, and I think people were enjoying it. But let me read Mia's comment.
Yeah.
She said this episode was absolutely amazing for so many reasons, with the laughing emoji and a heart. So I take that for what you want. Shout out to y'all and thanks again for the love for Childish Grown Ups Pod. Obviously, Mia is a co-host of that. And then also she commented on our Four Brothers episode. I'm
Mhm.
late, but congratulations in all caps on 100 episodes. My favorite podcast. Thank you, Mia. That means a lot.
Uh-huh.
And I appreciate you guys so much. Always amazing content. Thank you guys for giving me an opportunity and always showing love. The Culture
For sure.
Garden. Whoops, the Culture Garden opened doors for me, and I'm forever grateful. Hey, man.
We love you, Mia.
Yeah, shout out to you, man. We ain't do nothing but see someone who had a passion and some talent, and you want to talk movies, come and talk movies. That's what we do. It's never that deep for us. I mean, no, not to discredit what Mia said, but I just want to let everybody know, like we're just talking movies and we keep it simple. We're humbled that we're so many people tell us we're their favorite podcast or they love listening to us because, not to put it lightly, but we kind of look at it like that. We're just talking, like Rachel always says, we're just
For
running
sure.
our mouths.
That's it.
Um, about these movies and stuff. Shout out to We Got Y'all. I think We Got Y'all coming back real soon.
Hey.
You know
I
what I
like
mean? I think that's
it.
a matter of fact. I gotta watch that episode. I gotta
Is
watch
it
it.
out?
Came out yesterday. Came
It
out
did?
yesterday.
Okay, me too.
All right, I gotta watch the episode. All right, we'll get into it. But check our link tree, Instagram page, Culture Garden Podcast. The link tree will have all of our um, outlets and everything else that we're a part of. So check that out. There will be spoilers and explicit content today. And as you see from the episode title, we are talking about You've Got Mail, a
Hey.
throwback. Some of you, depending on your age range, have no idea the significance of those three words. But we're gonna get into it. The synopsis of the film: book superstore magnate Joe. Hold on, let me start over. Book superstore magnate Joe Fox and independent bookshop owner Kathleen Kelly fall in love in the anonymity of the internet, both blissfully unaware that he's trying to put her out of business. This was my week to choose the movie.
It was.
Yeah, so I knew it was December and I wanted something light. And I think when you think of You Got Mail, it's very light, very feel good. Um, Especially given how predictable it's very inevitable. Like the whole film is inevitable. You kind of know how it's going to work out. But there were some holiday elements to it. It spans for a few months, but you do have a Thanksgiving moment. You have a Christmas moment. So it kind of felt it was released in December. And it kind of just felt like a holiday movie, even though it's not. I also didn't want to save it for Romance Month. I wanted to kind of get it out now. So that's the reason why I chose it. It was very easy, very light, very. This is this is one of my favorite rom-coms, even though I have a big issue with it. I have a real big issue with this film.
Okay.
Joe in particular. I have a
For
real
sure.
big issue with Joe.
Because he's
Um,
manipulative.
he gaslight like a motherfucker. Like just like Hall of Fame, no real shit. For a movie to be this like loved
Mm-hmm.
and like cute, quote unquote, like this is almost to make a comparison, this is their Love and Basketball. When like
Mm-hmm.
nigga Q wouldn't like why are y'all chasing that as a relationship goal? That's the same with Joe. Like Joe, Hall of Fame gaslighting.
For
Hall of
sure.
Fame.
For sure. It's so crazy to look at through adult eyes because I don't think I've even pressed play on this movie in at least 20 years. I have not seen that mail.
Interesting.
At least 20 years. I used to have this in my collection on VHS. So that tells you how old this movie is. And as I'm watching, I'm like, yo, what the fuck?
we gonna
What kind of egomaniac manipulative bullshit is this? But
Joe is so trash.
I guess we're in it now. I did you used to watch All of Us?
The television show with hold on,
Yes,
was that
with
Holly
Lisa
Robinson Pete?
Ray.
No, all
No,
right.
Lisa
No, I'm
Ray,
tripping.
Dwayne Martin, Tony Rock.
Yes. Go fish, nigga.
Yes. So there's an episode towards the end of the series where Lisa Ray and Dwayne Martin, who are exes, loosely based off of Will Smith and Cherie Zampino and Jada Pinkett Smith's life together, blending that family. So there's an episode towards the end of the series where Dwayne and Lisa Ray are roommates, also ex-husband and wife, currently living together, but it is the exact same premise of this movie. And I never realized that, and I can't believe it because I used to love this movie, that the likeness never dawned on me. Lisa Ray, she's online. She and Robert, the character, Robert Anisi, they are chatting online, obviously in the anonymity of the internet. And this is the 90s, but we got y'all. All of us is late 2000, is early 2000. So
Yeah.
again, same thing. We figure one of us figures out who the other is, continues to chat. There's a stand-up situation and we work it out. But I was like, oh damn, that's exactly You Got Mail. I never even thought about it. Long story short, crazy ass
Now
bullshit.
yeah. So while we're gonna get into it, I can't wait because
Yeah.
there's a lot of wild shit going on. But as far as the stats go, this film was released, as I mentioned, December 18th of 1998. So 1 week before Christmas. It was directed by Nora Ephron, the late Nora Ephron, who is man, when you talk about making a mark in a certain
Mhm.
genre and lane, that's what she did with rom-com. She revolutionized the rom-com genre. I think what you see today, what you saw in the 2000s, 2010s, that form, even now, the form of rom-coms that we're all accustomed to came from her.
Mhm.
And I'll talk about that shortly when it comes to she directed Sleepless in Seattle 5 years early, 5 years earlier than this release. Also starring Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan.
Mhm.
Have you seen Sleepless in Seattle?
Yes.
Okay, but you haven't seen When Harry Met Sally.
I've seen When Harry Met Sally.
Okay, I got you. All right, you have. So she wrote that. She didn't direct it, but she wrote that
Got
film.
it.
And like I
Mhm.
said, when Harry Met Sally, that's like the OG of this whole. I think it came out '89. That's the whole OG of this genre. She also directed Bewitched, the movie that came out in '05.
Mhm.
I don't know if anybody saw it. It's like a 4.8 out of 10.
With
But it had Will
Will
Ferrell.
Ferrell.
I think Nicole. I can't remember if Nicole
Nicole
Kidman was in it, whoever it was.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, we talked about, like I said, Harry Met Sally. We talked about that in our Love and Basketball episode because Gina
Mhm.
Prince Bythewood, that's one of her favorite films, and there's a lot of inspiration from that film into this, or excuse me, in Love and Basketball. And like I said, she's just kind of the OG of that genre. And she also, I really want to give her a shout out. She wrote one of me and School's favorite movies ever. There's a movie that came out in 1990 called My Blue Heaven,
Okay. Don't
starring
know what that is.
starring Steve Martin and Rick Moranis.
Okay.
One of our favorite movies. Shout out to Pops, man. Pops got us hip to this so long ago. We were young, but it's one of those movies where you just put it in. We laugh every single
Yeah.
time. Like it's just one of those. So I'm sure that's episode's gonna have to come out one day. But it is one of those, like I said, 1990 early one. Chef Kiss. I had no idea she wrote that movie until I was doing research for this episode. Shout out to her for that alone. Um, Miklos Laszlo, he wrote the play that this was kind of originated from
Mhm.
back in 1937. And the screenplay of the film was written by director Nora Ephron and her sister, uh,
Mhm.
Delia. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. Delia, something like that. Delia. I don't think it's Delilah, because it's not
Delia.
another L. Yeah, so we'll say Delia Ephron. Had a budget of an estimated 65 million and it grossed
Crazy.
250.8 million worldwide, $18.4 million to open a weekend. Opened number one at the box office behind right in front of the Prince of Egypt and A Bug's Life. Once again, shout out to Childish Grown Ups. Both of those are animated films. Maybe they'll get to those one day. It was in theater for 19 weeks. So from December 1998 until April of 1999, this film was in theaters. Obviously, that includes like a 4 or 5 week run in the, as we call it, the $2 show.
Mhm.
Um, those things don't exist anymore, but it used to be a thing where after movies were already out on VHS or DVD, you could still go to the movies to see them. So 19-week run, and you currently have to rent or own this film if you want to watch it. It is $7.99 on most places if you want to buy it. Much easier to buy it if you want to or into that type of thing than to rent it for $4, but it is what it is. As far as awards go, there were 8 nominations and 6 wins. Question for you, Rachel.
Yes.
Who was which lead stood out more to you in this film?
So the answer is Meg Ryan,
Okay.
but Tom Hanks is just such a force that um he's the easy answer, but I think the better performance is Meg Ryan's to win.
Yeah, so absolutely. And the award shows thought so as well. She was the most nominated between the two. She was actually the one nominated for a Golden Globe.
Hmm.
She did not win. I believe Gwyneth Paltrow won for for Shakespeare in Love. I always say it like that because of scary movie Shakespeare. But she
Yeah.
won for Shakespeare in Love. But also another similar movie that you wouldn't think of in this comedy or in this lane. Cameron Diaz was nominated for a Golden Globe that year for Something About Mary.
Talking about Mary? Hmm.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, Meg Ryan was definitely nominated for Golden Globe. She fell shy of an Academy Award nomination, and that's pretty much it as far as the awards. I'm not gonna get into like what awards they won. They were minor blockbuster awards, stuff like that. The cast, as we mentioned, Tom Hanks is Joe Fox. Rachel, is Tom Hanks a top 10 actor of all time?
Yes.
I think so too.
Mhm.
And I
He's a
think
good
every conversation, I, I'm trying to think of what women would be in that top 10. I know Meryl Streep.
for
I
sure.
would put Angela in there. I know universally, if that conversation was happening as a whole, I don't know how many people would put Angela in the top 10, maybe top 15, but I have her in my top 10, maybe Viola,
Viola, Anne
because
Hathaway, Helen Mirren.
you think they all would be top 10 or consideration? Because when they had these combos, when I say they, I mean the overall, not the culture, just overall. They're gonna say Daniel Day-Lewis, they're gonna say Marlon Brando, they're gonna say Pacino, De Niro, Tom Hanks, Denzel, of course, got to be in there. Um, and then, like I said, I know Meryl Streep, and that's 7. it's an interesting conversation.
It is. It
We're not
is.
even talking about like Dorothy Dandridge. No, not Dorothy Dandridge, but um, I can't think of it. Judy Garland, people like that they would put in that top 10. I don't know.
Yeah,
Either way, top 10 of my generation for sure, if not all time. Tom
for
Hanks is
sure.
definitely there.
For sure.
Um, and I think in the 90s and 2000s, it was probably him and Denzel vying for that number one spot. I
For
think they were
sure.
hands down the best.
I would be devastated to find out like that Tom Hanks is a horrible person.
Yeah, I don't think he is. He is one of those people,
Rita.
right?
Yeah, him
It's
and Rita. I just think that they're not at Chet tricky, but
Chet is
it's
definitely tricky.
definitely tricky. But if it came out like the realization, remember when everybody found out Ellen was like me.
Yeah,
So if I were to find out anything similar about Tom Hanks, I would be disappointed.
I would be as well, and I don't think he's like that. Hopefully he's not. I don't know that man, and I'm a big proponent of a proprietor, should I say, of people not like treat these people like normal people.
Yeah,
Like you
for
put these
sure.
celebrities on these pedestals, and then you find out they trash, and then you devastated. Like nigga, that's a regular trash ass person. Stop
Right.
doing that. But I don't think Tom Hanks is like that. And like you said, Chet, that's that's what happens when the black nanny raises you. You know what I mean? Like that's Rita Tom's son, but you know,
Yeah,
Chet had some other influences that was around him and
bless that.
giving him things like that. Absolutely, man. Chet is funny. Um, for not as funny as he thinks he is, but funny to me. Just
For
you know,
sure.
like I said, that cookout shit, y'all gotta stop it. But anyway, there was something else I was gonna be to say about Tom Hanks too. I think it was just gonna be like I always used to say in sports, like so when the steroid era was going on in baseball,
Mhm.
like Derek Jeter, Ken Griffey Jr., those were like the only two people I could think of. Like if they came out that they were using steroids, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
And I think that goes in comparison to what you said. If somebody said that about Tom Hanks, I'd be shocked. I just don't
Yeah.
see that on him. And she got some G in him, man. I remember the paparazzi was running up on Rita, man. That nigga cut all that shit down. Back the fuck up. Yeah, man. Shout out to Tom, man. Protect your wife, man. I ain't playing no games with y'all. But Tom Hanks is Joe Fox, like I said, Gaslighting Hall of Fame.
Mhm.
Meg Ryan is Kathleen Kelly. Greg Kinnear is Frank Novaski. Parker Posey is Patricia Eden. Gene Stapleton is Birdie. Dave Chappelle is Kevin. Dave Chappelle as Kevin is an interesting choice. Do you know how he got cast in this film, Rachel?
I have no idea.
All right. So I don't want to say famously, I don't know how many people know this, but one of the biggest what ifs of Dave Chappelle's movie career is he passed on Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump was offered to him. He was going to play the role of Bubba. He thought that movie was going to be a box office flop. He looked at the script and said, this is going to be terrible. Passed on the movie. Obviously, it goes on to dominate the 94 Oscars.
Mhm.
Still a timeless film. And that was one of his regrets. Tom Hanks knew that. And he said, you know what? I'm vowing to make a movie with you in the future. So when this film came up, he went to Nora Ephron and said, hey, you should cast Dave Chappelle for this role, because he knew obviously he missed out on working with him before, and Dave Chappelle obviously agreed without even thinking about it. I don't even know if he read the script because he didn't want to miss out on another film with
Mhm.
Tom Hanks. So that's how he became a part of this film. Because it is interesting when you watch it and it's like Dave Chappelle, because he doesn't do movies anymore.
Yeah. That's very interesting. I'm actually glad he passed on Forrest Gump because I can't see him
Nah,
uh,
yeah, it wouldn't have worked.
transforming himself enough the way that I can't remember the actor's name, but he also was in
McKelty, yeah,
McKelty.
McKelty or Williamson.
Uh-huh. I can't see him. Dave is a comedian, and at the time a fledgling actor, but I don't know if he could have carried uh Bubba.
Nah, absolutely not. It wasn't that role for him. And McKelty,
Mhm.
everything happens for a reason.
For sure.
That wouldn't have been from him, and it would have been maybe it would have flopped if it had to be in it. All due respect to Dave, but
Mhm.
I just don't see it, and I don't see the range like that when it comes to that. And obviously, he's been weirded out of Hollywood and only does stand up now. But
Bless.
who else we have? We have Steve Zahn as George, Heather Burns as Christina, and Sarah Ramirez's film debut. I just had to shout out her because of Rachel. I know Rachel loves Grey's Anatomy. Sarah Ramirez, this is her first ever film. Doctor, what's her name? Callie Torres.
Dr. Callie Torres, Calliope Torres.
There you go. There you go, man. I just shouted it out for you. She
Amen.
had that small scene in the grocery store. Movie poster Hall of Fame, Rachel.
It's close.
Yeah, it doesn't
Hall
do
of
it for
Fame,
me.
though.
Yeah, too much thought. Anytime there's a pause that long, that's her answer. Should
Yeah,
be instantaneous. Like School Days was instantaneous.
for
This
sure.
one, nah, it's a good movie, but not movie poster Hall of Fame. So I got to get to the main question, Rachel. Classic or nah?
It's regarded as such.
That's a very interesting answer. The way you worded that is very interesting, Rachel.
It is regarded as such. Now, when we sort of talked about this, I was lamenting on how I used to watch this movie damn near every day when I had it on VHS, and I loved it. But when it came back to the rewatch, I'm like, ugh, tricky. I don't know how I feel about this movie, but it was still good. And it's not a question of is it a good movie or a bad movie? Is it a classic? And unfortunately, I might have to say yes,
Unfortunately, she says,
which is
Rachel,
crazy.
this
Yes.
movie is 100% a classic. All right. There are things that aren't for me per se that
Uh-huh.
I can still acknowledge. Like I know it's a classic even if it's not for me.
For
You know
sure.
what I mean? And there's things like that. I think this might fall. Now, granted, this is from I won't say for me. It's not my go-to rom-com, but
Mhm.
I still enjoy it. Like you said, Rachel, it was tricky because I watched it. Hmm. Before this rewatch, I probably watched it in 2022.
Mhm.
And I don't even think I batted an eye at the gaslighting. I
Yeah.
don't even think it was because it's one thing about this film, and I'll talk about it here in a second, is if you grew up in this era, like if you grew up with America Online and dial-up internet, like it
Mhm.
really the nostalgia is what's pulling you into it,
Right.
more so than the movie. But it's a classic, like I mentioned. Nora Ephron, and I'll talk about this list that I found. Nora Ephron has written 3 of the best rom-coms ever.
Okay.
Generate like just overall. Might not be for everybody, but when people are making their list, 3 of the best rom-coms ever were written by Nora Ephron. She directed 2 of them. Um, Many are widely considered the top 2, or 2 of them are considered the top 2, should I say? And I'm going to talk about this list that I found.
Okay.
So Vanity Fair. Once again, think about the publication, not necessarily the Culture Garden, who we go to for news, but Vanity Fair made a list of the top 42 rom-coms of all time. This list released in 2023, and she had 3 of the top 16.
Okay.
So Sleepless in Seattle was number 16.
Mhm.
You Got Mail was number 2, and When Harry Met Sally was number 1. Now,
Okay.
I kind of mentioned When Harry Met Sally. That was going to be number 1 on mostly anybody's list just because it's kind of started this shit.
Mhm.
So most people pay homage to it that way. You Got Mail being number 2 was a shock to me
Yeah.
because I mean, Sleepers in Seattle and You've Got Mail, they're kind of similar in a sense
Mhm.
where you know what's going to happen by the time you get into the first 15 minutes. You know how it's going to end. It's just about how you get there. And
Yeah.
You've Got Mail is the same way. I think it's a little bit more clever because of using the internet. And like I said, they did have inspiration from the prior movie. There's a 1940 film called Shop Around the Corner, which we'll talk about in the origin. Um, but they had 3 black films on that list, that Vanity Fair list.
Mhm.
So 3 black films in rom-com. How Stella Got a Groove Back was number 28. Coming to America was number 13. Love and Basketball was number 9. Which lets you know we
Okay.
didn't make this. We didn't make this list.
For sure.
Any list that doesn't have Boomerang in your rom coms, I'm not
It's
respecting
me.
it off rip. But I also want to give a shout out to Crazy Rich Asians, which was number 33, and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days at number 36. Those are
Ooh,
2 of my
another one of
favorite
my
rom coms.
favorites.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Um,
Which
the
both of
origin
those I would put,
above this.
yeah, for sure. Both
Okay,
of
I
them.
can't. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
we're gonna talk How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days was that was I don't that come out in 03,
Sure.
02, 01, somewhere around there. High school, early between freshman and junior year of high school, I'd say
Sure.
that came out, and that
Yeah.
was when I started realizing that this isn't just a guilty pleasure for me. Like rom-coms aren't a guilty pleasure. Like I love rom-coms. Like I love this shit because that movie was not made for my demographic. I don't
Not at
believe.
all. Not at all.
Um, but I loved it the first time I saw it, and I still love it to this day. As far as the origin, like I mentioned, it was inspired by a play that came out in 1937. Parfumerie, I guess is the name of that. I don't know. That's the guy, Miklos Laszlo. And then there was a 1940 film, Shop Around the Corner, which obviously they get inspiration from Kathleen's bookstore. Um, the emails were up until 2018, they were available on the website for the film. The website is now down, but you
Mm,
can read every single email that was sent between Joe and Kathleen throughout the film. Nick Castle, who directed Tap, shout out to Gregory Hines, and he also directed Major Payne. He
mhm,
was originally slated to direct this film, but left over creative differences. I can't imagine the person who directed Major Payne having a same rom-com effect like this with these two stars, but it kind of worked out. It was filmed in the Upper West Side from February '98 through June of '98, and Ephron decided to make this. She made Kathleen's store a children's bookstore to make it more personal. And I
mhm,
like when filmmakers do stuff like that because it translated in screen. Like her and her sister loved children books growing up.
mm,
And they said, all right, we can make it a bookstore, but let's make it a little bit more personal. And that comes out through Kathleen. Like she's not just working at a bookstore. She loves that. That's her life. And you
mhm.
can tell by the way she kind of puts her energy and her love into what she does. Even small scenes when she's at Fox's bookstore and somebody's looking for a book, she knew offhand what
That's
it was and the whole nine. Yeah,
mm,
yeah, yeah. She just kind of, I just think it's dope when people's real life inspirations spill over to the script and it translates because it does make you root for that character a little bit more because you know how personal it is for her. And I don't know if it's the same if she's just working at some random place. You know what I
arbitrary
mean?
place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely, man. And Nora Ephron also had Meg Ryan and Heather Burns rehearse and work at a bookstore. So the bookstore Books of Wonder is actually still open in Manhattan.
Mm,
That's what the inspiration was for their bookstore, and this they still have some memorabilia up from the film. So the
okay.
next time anybody's in Manhattan, I think it's on 14th Street, 114th Street. One of them, I don't know, man. One of them, 100 and something.
AJ, let us.
Uh, yeah, one of one of them, man. It's still open, so you can check it out. Obviously, they talk about the Pride and Prejudice similarities in the book. There's a lot of that going on, and a lot of Wizard of Oz imagery, should I say, in this film.
Mm. Shout out to
I
Wiki.
know. I'm about to say Wicked is out right now. Perfect time if you want to rewatch this to see a lot of the Dorothy's Red Slippers and everything else that's going on. The Oz books are present throughout this film, so a lot of that. Um, you mentioned earlier, Rachel, that this was one of the first movies that you owned and watched a
Mhm.
lot. Do you remember your first experience with this film?
I don't. I don't even know how it came to be in my collection, in my personal movie collection. In like, what is this, 98, 10? What is that, third, fourth grade? I don't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, we would have been by the time this came out, it probably would have been '99 when it came out on VHS. So we would have been around 12.
12. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember my first time watching it. It just came to be and I loved it. I, for those of you who don't know, I used to be obsessed with like writing letters because I'm a lover girl. So maybe this is part of it, but just I will write letters like nobody's business, not just between
you
you and the homegirls.
you wrote letters,
Yeah.
mail. They used to call it mail.
I meant to young callers.
Oh yeah, I know. I know exactly who you was writing to.
My mother intercepted some mail that was inappropriate to say the least at around this time in my life. Just, tricky.
Mm, mm.
Crazy ass kid.
Dang, intercepted the mail is crazy, man.
Intercepted the mail is crazy. But yeah, no, so I don't remember, but I I think for me, it's one of the things that I like most about this movie, just because asking all the right questions without asking any questions is so important. And that is exactly what Kathleen and Joe did throughout their correspondence prior to,
Yeah.
really knowing who each
Yeah.
other were. And I love that.
There's even a moment in the film, Rachel, when she says, I think it was after he stood her up, well, technically, at the and she said something about the you probably have it written down about the
Something
nothings and
nothing has meant so much more than so many somethings. That's a
yeah,
bar.
yeah, that's a bar. That's a bar. That's how you get to know people. You don't even know, and we'll talk about it in scenes, but before you know it, like you look up and like, oh, I get to know this person, I care about this person. And it
Mhm.
all started from a bunch of nothing, just random nonsense that you talk about. And for me, first experience, I have no idea the first time I saw this film.
Yeah.
I knew that it wasn't 98, it wasn't around that time, it was probably high school or something, but I do remember and love the nostalgia. Um, because I mentioned that dial-up internet and just that modem and just one family computer and I'm trying to use the phone, get off the computer. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
All of that was really a time. It was a time. And one thing I was thinking about, I was wondering if this film could resonate with today's like youth. If I showed this to a 17-year-old, would they like this film because it's so dated? And they knew it was going to be dated whenever you're using American Online and stuff like that and those old laptops. But I also thought, Rachel, and I don't watch this show, but I know it's a phenomenon. Love is Blind, right?
Mhm.
It kind of was the opening, and I think this is why that list had it so high. It was kind of the opening of the phenomenon that was going to be people meeting online and meeting on the internet. Now you have apps and everything else for it. It's a big deal. But Love is Blind, if I'm not mistaken, like I said, I've never seen an episode, even though I've been told by a few people I should get on there. I was told I could clean up on Love is Blind. I don't know, man. That's what they said, not me. Um,
Bless.
all right. I don't even know what it is though, but apparently you don't meet, you don't see the person, you talk to them. Do you
I
watch Love is Blind for
I
starters?
I am not a Love is Blind girly either,
Okay.
so I have no idea. I assume that, you're talking through a pod from what the context clues I've picked up on, but no, you don't actually see this person maybe until the end. I don't know. Don't get me the lion.
All right. Yeah. So either way, I was thinking about that aspect of it being because they were literally right down the street from each other the whole time.
Mhm.
And they were, mentions throughout the film of, I could walk past them plenty of times and not even know it. It could be the next person to come in this story.
Mhm.
And that's just kind of how the difference is online dating. You have a profile, but those chat rooms, Rachel, listen, those chat rooms back in the day, telling you, that was my joint. They did a great job of depicting how the eagerness it was to come in. Like I say, technology wasn't attached to you at that time.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
couldn't wait to get home to log in to see if you did have any mail or to see if you did have any messages. And there was a difference between live IMing, and I remember even up to freshman year of college having my AOL Instant
AOL.
Messenger.
Uh-huh.
My way messages used to be set the whole nine. I have some kind of lyric of some sort. But that was just a big deal. As a matter of fact, I met Goods, man. I would, it ain't that deep, but I would calm him down. Good probably remember, man. I had like a little fake relationship in 7th grade with some woman that I met on a chat room. Yeah, we was exchanging letters. So going back to your point, Rachel, talking about exchanging letters, there was no better feeling than getting letters in school or
Uh-huh.
passing letters to that somebody is funny. And there was me and this young lady, we were a year apart. So
Mhm.
me and school are 2 years apart.
Mhm.
So when I was a freshman in high school, she was still in 8th grade and school was in 7th grade. So we used to use school as the passer of the notes.
Not a proxy.
Yeah, he was definitely the proxy. I see school, and we'd be at our grandparents. I give him a note to go ahead and slide over to her. She'd write back, and she would fold it a certain way, so I knew if that nigga would read it or not. Like you
Mhm.
can't. It was one of them special
Gotta put it
folds.
back. Oh,
Tuck
yeah.
it in and all that. Yeah, man. So it was just funny those days. I used to have all those letters up until like maybe 10 years ago. I still had
Um,
every single letter that was written to me. There, multiple boxes
I
because I was
still
that nigga.
have a large box of letters in my parents' house. When I was just home a couple of weeks ago, my mom was like, "You need to throw all of this shit out." But I'm gonna go through them at some point. Maybe when I go home for Christmas, I'm gonna actually look at them before I throw that box away and see
Yeah,
what kind of
man.
foolishness was going on.
Yeah, it was a lot of nonsense. Even now, when I read like my yearbooks, even when I read yearbook entries, I'm like, yo, what the fuck is going on? But yeah, shout out to that, the nostalgia of it all. That helps with this film, and
Mhm.
also just kind of the importance of not the importance, maybe the importance. it meant something to have something to talk about at the end of the day.
For sure.
Versus talking all day and now you get home and it's like, all right, now we kind of manufacturing. Like they
Mhm.
literally could not wait to get home on those laptops and just talk about the random nonsense that happened in their day. And also like have no idea who I'm talking to. It could be a crazy person, everything. And there was so much that you had to worry about that they didn't really think about back then. Or maybe they did, but just didn't care because they didn't have any intention of meeting.
They had no intention of meeting, but you just said something that just sparked the curiosity, of the anonymity. It really meant something. And now as a society, with good reason, we are so paranoid, even with having pictures and full profiles. It something about it, especially now, just feels a little bit more dangerous than being carefree with the AOL username and password and just having seemingly genuine conversation with someone who too, even then, may or may not have had a picture, could be catfish. You could be talking to Jared from Subway. Who knows?
Wow, yeah, man.
It's just so bizarre because people are fucking crazy. But I,
They're
I love
insane.
a good love story to round that out, and I appreciate the way this was done.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Let's go ahead and get into scenes, Rachel.
For sure.
So this is my movie. I'll go ahead and start. You know how this is gonna start.
You already
You know
know.
how it's gonna start. It's gonna start the opening scene where we meet these characters. So I'll talk about the nostalgia of America Online. Obviously, the internet does not work like that anymore. But if you did live in that time, it has to warm your heart just a little bit. The dial-up, the You've Got Mail. That was a big deal. They actually were able to get that. This movie was supposed to be called something else, but they realized You've Got Mail wasn't trademarked, so they were able to use it. And the person who did the voice was trying to get a credit, but it didn't work because he recorded that in 1989. It is what it is. But either way,
Do you remember your old username?
no, I have no idea. No idea, and I wish I could. It wasn't K Rich or anything. It was something else. Uh, do you remember yours?
Miss Ray P. And then I made it my AOL Messenger name. I've always been Ray P.
Have you always been Ray P? Damn, that's making me wonder if it's always been K Rich. Because before K Rich, it was Special K.
Mm, I can see that.
Uh, So I don't know. I don't know, man, but I wish I could remember that. I'm sure 513 was in there somewhere.
I'm
But yeah,
sure.
man, age, sex, location, the whole nine. Those chat
Mm,
rooms just be jumping. Shout out to Black Planet.
lots of
Shout
black.
out to everything. But yeah, just how advanced yet how simple technology was at that time, which
Mhm,
it's hard to think about now. It's funny because side note, I was watching a documentary. CNN does this thing called like this decade series,
mhm,
70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, whatever. And they talked about how the iPhone, like the technology of the iPhone was like it was supposed to be like 20 something years away.
mhm.
Like it really um accelerated the way we use technology. And it's just funny because when you think about pre-iPhone, like yeah, the technology was cool, but it wasn't what it is now. It wasn't just in
Yeah,
your hand all the time. It was in a way, but not the way we look at it today. And
for
I
sure.
always think that's interesting. But people were really hooked on those chat rooms. uh when black people speak about wanting more regular films about ourselves, this is what that we mean.
For sure.
Like both of these characters you see, they're living in the west side, upper west side, New York, well off, maybe not rich, but like well enough that they don't have any financial worries. They're not struggling with anything.
I mean, he
Business owner, yeah, he has money for sure. But even her, like to have that apartment where she
Mhm,
lives,
mhm,
um, from owning a bookstore and having it in the family for so long. There was no struggle. There was
mm,
no nothing. Just two people doing regular things.
yeah,
That's what we mean. And this kind of set that up as far as that whole example. We meet her logging into her computer, which you can see is the joy of her day. And we see Joe doing the same thing. That is the joy of
sure.
his day. He can't wait to talk to Shop Girl. She can't wait to talk to NY152. Um, and we also know they don't find that we find out they don't have any specifics about each other. So this
Mhm,
is legit two random people just talking, which is how it was. I know it sounds crazy now. That's exactly how it was. Um, his girl, I forget her name. I'll get back to it. Joe's girlfriend
mhm.
is one of those girlfriends where it couldn't be me, but I would laugh my ass off if it was one of my friends. Like just the way she is, like, bro, I know this nigga's miserable. Like
I
I know he's miserable. I know my man's is miserable, but he will not leave her, and I think that's just hilarious. So that's always funny to me. And both Joe and Kathleen had to be sure one little subtle thing, and this was different from the adaptations. They both had to be super clear and sure that their partner was gone before they logged on, which lets us know that they knew they were doing some shit
emotional
they had no
cheating.
business doing.
Mhm,
Exactly.
mhm.
Exactly. Which, because if it was just some random shit, you don't care. But they literally would hide their laptop when they came, made sure, looked out the window to make sure that nigga was outside and walking to the bus or whatever train. I just thought that was very interesting.
Again, looking at this through adult eyes, obviously it registered that they were both in different relationships. But to know what that sneaking around to talk to somebody really, really looks like is crazy.
Yeah.
And obviously that we were kids when this came out. So before you had the language to say, this is an emotional affair. This is, cheating essentially, uh, even though nothing's happened. How do you cheat with somebody you actually have no idea of what their first name is or who they
Mhm.
are, what they actually look like? But that's in fact what the fuck was going on.
Wild shit, man. All from a chat room. They was loving it. They was loving it, man. What's your next scene?
So my next scene is a ways away. It's Joe and his aunt and brother at Kathleen's store. So do
Okay,
you
so let me
where
yeah,
that?
let
Yeah.
me get to something right before that. So Joe, before Fox and Sons bookstore was open, we go to the site, and this is where we first meet Kevin, Dave Chappelle's character. And I really just want to shout out this scene because once again, a lot of mirroring scenes, especially at the beginning, where you have Joe and then Kathleen and Joe in the same situation. But there was this moment where Joe's not listening to a word Kevin's saying. Like niggas said we just got to find because somebody peed off the roof. He like, oh great, great, great. Like you didn't listen to anything I said. I just
Uh-huh.
told you the electrician just hit a deer. Like what's going on? He was like, man, I can't even hear anything. I can't hear a sound in these New York streets, which means you gone.
Sauce.
If you can't hear anything in New York, that means your head in the cloud. That you happy as could be. And I love Kevin, not knowing nothing about nothing, just saying, you got engaged to Patricia, didn't you? And this nigga's
Yeah.
reaction, he was disgusted by the idea of
Nigga,
being
no.
engaged to Patricia, man. His face of disgust was priceless. Like that's how people are in relationships, and that's what makes it funny.
Crazy.
People be with somebody, it reminds me of Ghost in Power. Like,
I just lost the love of my life.
that's the last love of my life, Tasha, man. Have some respect. That's some wild shit to say. But that
Tio,
nigga really looked at him. He looked at Kevin and said, engaged? Are you serious? Like,
crazy.
come on, man, stop it. And then the same thing, when Ann did it, like she was talking about Scotch tape, or not Ann, Kathleen.
Definitely.
Uh, yeah, talking about Scotch tape. Like, what's good? What's up with you? Like, you in love with you? No, love, no, no. And then she was like, oh yes, I am in love. I am in love with Gary. Like these niggas forgot they even had partners because they so enthralled with the anonymity
Mm-hmm.
of this person that they've been growing attached to. And I
Yeah,
wonder how much of that is just the chase, just the freshness and the newness of something. Because we all know it ain't always green on that other side. Most
it's
times it's not greener.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But they were ready. Say
They
fuck they
were.
dudes, fuck they girl, all of that.
I think it is the thrill of the chase, or the colloquialism that a lot of y'all say. Uh, nothing, no pussy is better than new pussy.
Oh
Uh,
no, no. Only thing better than pussy is new pussy.
yeah, something. See, I don't use that language. So
Hey, you wild. Ah, shit.
I don't speak like that. So I don't know. But it's
Ah,
a little bit of that when you first start, entertaining somebody, the conversation with you and your longtime mate has gone stale, and here is somebody with fresh perspective, and you're not even talking about shit.
yeah, man. We
But it's,
also
you
no,
know,
go ahead,
it's
go ahead.
that's it. Your nose just
Yeah,
opens a little bit, and now you worried about the smell of scotch tape and not being
yeah.
able to hear over loud ass New York.
No, Rachel, they were like overly. I don't mean to sound like a downer, but anybody like if you're out there listening, you ever been somebody that's like too chipper, like too happy? And
Me.
that sounds like a crazy thing to say. That's why I said I don't want to sound like a downer. Like
Uh-huh.
finding joy is a beautiful thing, but there's like annoying, like chipper, what's going on? Like you can't
Yeah.
be this happy. Like what's up? Um, and it
Toxic
also
positivity.
yeah, exactly. Toxic
Mhm.
positivity. Yeah, man. Ain't shit that sweet out here right
And
now,
shit,
man.
that's sweet.
At 9:30 in the morning on a Tuesday in New York. But
Mm,
it also gives us the origin of how they met because Kathleen told the story about, as a joke, she went in the chat room and they just started talking and just kind of
mhm.
just random thing. And now here they are all this time later. It's funny. You funny as hell, Rachel. Uh Dave Chappelle's in this movie, and that what you said, the way you delivered that was if anybody watched the Def Jam 25th anniversary, and when him and DL Hughley were up there on stage together, and they were doing this bit about how you can say whatever you want, but you got to deal with the consequences. And
Uh-huh.
DL was talking about some, you can cuss at your mama as long as you're okay with her slapping you into next week or something like that. And
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle just kind of blindly like, my mom didn't hit. But anyway, and the way he delivered that shit was hilarious. Obviously, I'm not Dave Chappelle, so I didn't do it the same, but that was gold, Rachel. You got a future in this. You got a
Amen.
future in this.
Bless that.
Um, okay, now we're at your scene. I'm
Okay.
there.
Yeah, so Joe and his aunt, his name Abigail, and
Annabelle.
Annabelle and the fox are at Kathleen's store because again we talked about it at the beginning. This is a children's bookstore, and Fox's book, the children's department, wasn't quite uh well, the store wasn't open yet, number one, but obviously we learned that the children's section still was missing some things. So they pop over to
Shop around the corner.
shop around the corner, and the two star-crossed lovers meet unknowingly, unbeknownst to
Hmm.
one another.
Yeah,
And we see there the hints of chemistry once Joe realizes who Kathleen is, or that she's the owner, not that she's shop girl. He immediately hides his name, pays in cash, whereas I believe he would have paid with a card otherwise, just
right.
to again conceal that I am Fox. And I love how the little brother, I can't remember his name, um,
Matthew.
Matthew, FOX. That's all he could do was spell Fox, because when you have one of those names, ironically enough, I've been watching a Game of Thrones marathon on HBO.
Mm,
So your last name matters, where it comes
facts.
from. So even little Matthew at 4, maybe 5, so young, only thing I can spell was Fox, because my name means things. You see it in big bold red letters. Um
Hmm.
and I just like this scene in general, because we learned that Joe is not a bad man, and given any other circumstance, it would have been easy to root for them from the beginning. Like, oh, I wish this is the moment they would have fallen in love, or could have or met here versus the online situation. But I wonder if it could have been a similar quote unquote love story
Yeah.
had they just met organically in the shop without the background information of
It,
talking, because she
it,
was interested in him at the register.
I think to your point, Rachel, it definitely could have worked if he naturally was just there and then met her, and then we find out about, oh, we're planning on opening this bookstore here, and now he's trying to hide, exactly. I
Mhm,
don't know. It could work that way, but obviously, I think for us as viewers, I talked earlier about how this movie is inevitable,
mhm.
and this is their first time meeting, and we knew it was going to happen. We just wanted to see how it was going to play out because you
Yeah.
both are already in love with each other. You just
Mhm,
don't know it yet. And here you
mhm.
are. And that's just a wild concept to think about. Like you're sitting here talking to someone and you have these deep feelings for them, but you have no idea that it's them. And
Mhm.
because of the other circumstances, and maybe this is like a lesson for getting out of your own way, because of circumstances, you looking at this person already a certain way, right? So
Exactly.
he knows I'm about to put you out of business, so I can't even put
Engage
myself out there
you.
like that.
Mhm.
Which also gaslighting begins
For sure.
because at some point this is going to be found out,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to go on from there. So I like that scene too. I like the trope of this is my aunt or aunt, as they say,
Mm-hmm.
and the little brother and the whole nine. And because we've all seen those funny situations where you got the aunt who's 3 years younger than the niece or nephew and all of that. It happens to the best of it. There's also a bar in this scene where Joe was looking for a book and George was helping him.
Mm-hmm.
He was pointing out some things about the book, and Joe said, "So that's why it's cost so much." And George said, "No, that's why it's worth so much." I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was a bar, just because it's not always about how much something costs; it's about what it's worth. You
About what
paying what it's worth. You know what I mean? I just thought that was, especially for somebody like George, who they wrote to be kind of like the dummy
aloof.
and the fall guy.
Mhm.
Yeah, very aloof character. I thought that was a bar from him.
And
And
consider Fox's
yeah,
books is discount books.
yeah, straight up.
So,
Nigga, why would I pay this much for a book?
uh-huh.
It's like you don't see this true worth in it. So their natural connection. Also, it kind of sets up that you want to be rooting for Kathleen and against Joe. Not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily because of anything Joe did, but because her reading that story to all those kids, and this is the joy that she was bringing. Once again, she naturally, this is her life. She brought that.
Mm-hmm.
She's a natural with kids. She was helping Annabelle out with something else. And like you said, that natural connection between her and Joe kind of felt very familiar, like they knew each other. And yeah, Annabelle almost gave it up. You
Yeah.
know, Fox, that's my dad. Oh, whoa, chill out, man. Go over here and read this dinosaur book, man. I'm working. You know what I'm saying? Nephew over here working something. Also, it's funny, or I think she said it was a line. She wasn't just selling books; she was helping people become whoever it was they were going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think when she was talking about her mom, I thought that was a bar. Like she was helping people become whoever it was they were going to be. Also, one sidebar about that scene. Joe was asking about a book called Swiss Family Robinson, and
Mm-hmm.
that book is about castaways. And 2 years later, he was in Castaway.
Boy.
So I just
Mm.
thought that was very interesting.
Look,
All right. So my next scene was going to be the party where they meet again.
same. Mm-hmm.
Okay, got you. So Joe and Kathleen meet again, very awkwardly. Ain't nothing worse than a nigga know he in the wrong because he trying to avoid her and put the
That's
hand up
it.
like that. Like, bro, just face that up front.
And
And
she still has no idea who he is, just Joe.
so we get some movie magic, going to your point, Rachel, because obviously she goes up on somebody, yo, we kicked it. Like we had a good rapport in the bookstore.
Yeah.
You remember me? Yeah. And you show that you remember me. You remember my name, everything, but you acting real weird, right? You trying to rush out of here. The classic, I'm here with somebody else look. Like slide out. I gotta give this to my date. She's part camel. And then the movie magic, because as Kathleen's walking away, some random person who we never see again, never saw
Mhm.
before, just I can't believe you were just talking to Joe Fox.
Crazy.
Joe
Mm.
Fox says, yep, he's about to own everything. So then that's when it all flips. And then she
Mhm.
comes over. Like, shout out to Kathleen. She's like, hold on, bruh. You trying to put me out of business, man. You the ops. I just found out you the ops, man. Nah, what
See?
you doing? Spying? Because I would have thought what she thought too.
Mhm.
Like, were you in there spying on me? That's why you couldn't just Joe.
Mm.
Joe paying the cash, bro. I see your game right now. I see
Yeah.
what right
Yeah.
then. If she should have known, like, I see what type of nigga you are.
Mhm.
I see what
Mhm.
type of nigga you are, bro. And I ain't hear from it. And I'm letting you know I ain't going down like that. So they got the awkward small talk, and the Godfather reference, always a winner with me. Anytime you reference the Godfather,
I knew you would
I'm a
love
big
that.
in. Absolutely. I didn't know who you were with. I'm in the book business. So they're both in the book business, just two different sides of it. So I
Mhm.
like that conversation. And it builds that disdain. Like, so now I mentioned earlier about in the bookstore scene, you're rooting for Kathleen. Now you're starting to root against Joe.
Yeah.
He's very cold with it. And even though it is playful banter, it is like, all right, Joe, man, I ain't rocking with you. And you taking all the caviar. Um, he was dogging the shit. He was
Just
dogging
being
the shit
an
to the point
asshole.
to the point where she had the knife pulled up, like just
Yeah.
naturally, like nigga, I should stab you. Like, you really just going in, and then Gary comes over, or not? I see calling him Gary.
Frank.
Frank. Yeah, I don't know why I keep calling him Gary. Frank comes over and pretty much is on some, oh man, you should be ashamed of yourself. Like, how you sleep at night? And the mates, the partners of each other are kind of hitting it off.
Mhm.
You know what I
Mm.
mean? Which was a little bit odd. If I'm Joe, I'm looking at her, especially when they get home and something like, bro, like, get off his dick.
No, for
I
real.
can't believe we met Frank. Like, you doing a little too much now. All right, cool. I get it. You a fan, but chill out.
And Frank was loving that because I think that news reporters uh yes, they're writers,
Mm.
but it's not the same notoriety as an author or like a famed columnist, you know what I'm saying? So he
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
genuinely surprised and geeked that somebody one knew who he was and was a
Hmm.
fan, especially considering after someone mentioned him, called him a nut from The Observer. Why would Kathleen tell him that part?
Right, right, right. That shit
Just
crazy.
ridiculous. Just ridiculous. But yeah, I know I love that scene as well for all of those exact same reasons. Um,
Yeah, man.
and it's nothing
I,
like putting two and two together for Kathleen, like, oh shit. Like you, I would have thought that you were in there scheming because why are you in here? It reminded me of um Baby Mama when the dude, it's not a Jamba Juice, you know. Uh where is my mind? Uh
what what movie?
Baby Mama.
I ain't seen Baby Mama in a minute. Damn, Rachel.
Yeah, where homegirl goes and scouts the not Jamba Juice, you know, as she and Steve Martin's character are going to open their own, you know. Just I would have had that exact same thought, needless to say. My next scene,
I ain't seen Baby Mama in a minute. I'm weak.
see, here you go, is related. It's the email session that they have after the dinner party.
Okay, got you. All right.
Because again, they don't know who each other are yet, but have these exchanges in the story of their day. Kathleen is shitting on this nigga high key, and he doesn't know that you're talking about me.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And coaches her essentially on how to put a motherfucker in their place, you know, which obviously I loved. But it shows the nature of what their relationship would look like, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
strong points of each person and what they would bring to the situation. But I love that because it was just so thoughtful and, dare I say, carefree. Like you're not unwinding for real with this nigga that you're sharing a bed with. You had to go get on your computer to type sweet nothings to this stranger that you don't know. And on both sides, you know, and I just really
Straight
like
up.
that. Cause again, it's this is part of the buildup.
Yeah. And it continues that theme, Rachel, of how much if you just left it to um life
Mm-hmm.
and your own preconceived notions, that'll never work because
Yeah,
of who you thought who he was, how
for
you
sure.
represented, all of that. But
For sure.
once you take all of that out the picture and kind of open yourself up to all possibilities, then you realize I can find someone who's very compatible with me. But had
Mm-hmm.
it just been a natural setting, she'd have never looked at it like that. He probably would have, but
Mm-hmm.
she never would have in the whole nine. They have conversations throughout like that throughout this movie. So that's another great scene. Mine is the grocery store scene,
Okay.
Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So they were at the grocery store, the cash only line. Um, and she's so distracted by seeing Joe and doesn't want to see or doesn't want him to see her that she gets in the wrong line. And then everybody, Harry, whatever his name was, on her ass. Like she didn't read the sign. She didn't read the sign. It's cash only. She got the credit card, and Joe hears it and say, "Oh, you need some money? Like you need?" Because there's nothing worse, Rachel, than getting help from someone you can't stand. I think you on mute. My bad.
Hate it.
Yeah, yeah, and like
Hate
it's
it.
genuine too. Like, and it's not like it's something that you really need at that moment.
Mhm,
You know what I
mhm.
mean? Like I really do need this up. I'm in this jam, and he went ahead and showed that charm. Is why he's Joe Fox, and like
There's
hey, Rose. That's a
nothing
great name.
nothing worse than a charming ass man. You hear me? Nothing. It is the pits,
uh,
especially when you ain't in the mood for that shit, especially when you need that charm to
hey,
work. Oh my
and
god, please go to
he was
hell.
nice. He was
Thank
nice to
you.
the entire. Hey, you wild. He was nice to the entire line. Got Rose smiling. Even
crazy.
told Harry was mad, man. Happy holidays, Harry, man. You good? Like, all right, cool. Make sure everything good. I know you can just go ahead and zip this card through. Come on, Rose. It's Thanksgiving.
It's a
Like,
car
just the
machine
whole,
right here. Come on now.
it's right here. It's right here. Come on. I know you can do it. You can do it. And she was sitting there the whole time, like, this motherfucker. Like, don't
Right.
expect to thank you. Don't expect to thank you, because fuck you.
But then turned that smile right back upside down when he walked away and had to deal back with Kathleen. Like, all right, Rosa, like,
Mm-hmm.
please.
Yeah, she was. Listen, man, she's slowing up the line. But yeah, no, that was just funny. He charmed the entire line.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and got up out of it. I just thought that was one of those clever ones. Like I said, mainly because there's nothing worse than getting help from somebody the last person you want help from.
Yeah.
You know. What's your next scene?
My next scene is a bit of a ways too, and it's at the coffee shop waiting for Joe. So you got anything before that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So a couple of small things. Going
Mhm.
to the mattresses once again. Godfather reference.
Godfather,
I
yeah.
love how. She mentioned that to Frank. She's like, I'm gonna go to the mattress. She's like, you know what that's from? He's like, yeah, Godfather. Like, because it's a natural thing.
I
But her
would.
deciding to fight back, the conflict of interest was crazy. But hey, if
Mhm,
you can do it, do it.
mhm.
Get away with it. And you see the story jumping. And I just want to shout out her preparing for battle, like her doing like the fake dances, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, just
For
all of that.
sure.
Like, just Meg Ryan. Kathleen is
Mhm.
just like just one of those silly characters. Like, all right, man, like
Yeah.
whatever. You don't really take her too seriously, but you do. Um, Also the scene of Frank's TV interview, because
Mhm.
Frank is he's so self-indulging. He
Yes.
loves that shit.
Yes,
Like,
he
Frank
is,
is one of if Frank had a podcast, he would immediately be listening to it as soon as he finished
for
and keep
sure.
it on loop. Like, the only thing he listens to is himself. He's one of those type of people.
I love it.
Um, Asking her if she's taping it. And then I love how Kathleen's watching, like, hold up, like, she coming on to you. He's like, what? Nah. And he doing the same back. Like, nah, I'm just being polite. I'm just
Yeah,
being polite.
okay. Yeah,
It's funny
okay.
because there's a scene in Sopranos where Chris Moltisanti, he got his girl, and then her girl's friend was there with him, right? And so he's
Mhm.
trying to like make a little move, get something started, and it blows up in his face, obviously. And his girl's yelling at him, like, you told her she had a nice ass. He was like, I was just trying to say something positive because she's your friend.
Mm.
What's another gaslighting example?
No,
But
for
that's
sure.
how I felt. That's how I felt with that scene. Overall, it's just hilarious to me. Um, that nigga was really risking it all on TV and acting like it
Yeah.
wasn't nothing.
No, for
Then
real.
ended then ended saying, like, I don't know, but there's something there. Come on,
Men
man.
are insane. What's wrong with
Hey, Frank hilarious. I can't answer for all that.
you?
Can't answer for all that, man. All right, those are only two I had before we get to the actual scene. Go
Okay.
ahead, Rachel.
So we're at the coffee shop. And again, I told y'all that this immediately reminded me of All of Us with Lisa Ray and Dwayne Martin. Same scenario. I'm sitting here with my rose. I think hers was red, Lisa Ray's was white, waiting for you. And you know the call sign. And so
It's it's
even,
it's just crazy how when people say rose, that's not the first thing I think about anymore. I ain't think about the flower.
well,
That shit crazy, man. She was like, she's sitting there with a rose. I'm like, hold on, what scene was that? Now I got you now. I'm here. I'm back. I'm here.
will you please go away? Please go away.
Just the way I hear things. My bad.
Yeah,
She's sitting there with a rose and her book.
I was gonna give y'all a little bit too much information, so I'll back on up out of there. Um, and she's sitting there with her rose and a book and tea, waiting for this man who you've had so much chemistry with, and you finally have the guts, to say, let's meet in person. And so you're here, you're waiting with bated breath, with anticipation, and you're still waiting, and you're still waiting, and you're still waiting. Meanwhile, Joe is there, figures out the fucking jig,
This is nasty.
and
This
you
is
have a
nasty.
decision to make. Do I leave? Do I come tell you who I am? Or do I come play in your face? He chose C.
Hey,
He
Rachel, this
chose
is
C.
nasty. This is disgusting.
And this is what Robert did and all of us. But he came and we've said gaslight 10,000 times this episode, but you came and gaslit the fuck out of her, knowing that you were the one that she was waiting for. And being a coward. Like, you could have said, yo, wow, life is funny with all its tricks and turns, twists and turns. But here we are. I am actually who you're waiting for. I am NY152, Shop girl, is that you? You could have made it so player. And I understand that the disdain and the negative thoughts towards one another have already begun brewing. But we could have laughed about it. Like, wait a minute, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not shooting Joe Bell because I don't really do that for men, but I don't really do that. But in his mind, knowing that Kathleen had already been accusatory, like, are you stalking me? Are you spying? Maybe he could have had the mindset of, if I reveal to you that I am him in this moment, you might think I really was on some deep cover trying to infiltrate your system, which
Yeah.
obviously he wasn't. But he decided to play in her face and essentially make her feel worse.
Yeah, this is where because here's the nastiest part about all this, Rachel. Like,
Mhm,
playing in her face altogether, but in particular for me, I don't know why. Every time he would turn his head to look at the door,
mhm.
like, that was like just disgusting.
That's the
Because
signal. You know
who
it's
she looking for
coming.
ain't
I'm
coming in
already
because
here.
it's you. So you really playing along with her, making her feel crazy, talking about some, oh, it can't be that guy. I'm assuming it's not that guy. And
Mm,
going back, let me rewind a little bit. So part of what you said that so well, by the way, is
thank you.
why the store scene where he gets Rose to
Mhm.
run the credit card machine doesn't fit. Because we've seen you pull out some stops if you need to.
Yep.
Like, there were 10 me personally,
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking about 10 different ways I could have just flipped that whole scene
Yep.
and it would have been cool. But the last thing I would have done is act like I just ran into you here.
Crazy.
I'm not the person,
Crazy.
because he he's so excited, he's so nervous, right?
Mhm.
Childlike nervousness.
Mhm.
Like, which I'm sure a lot of grown folks ask yourself, when's the last time you felt that way about meeting someone? Like, I'm
Oh,
this
me
nervous. My
never.
heart,
But
yeah,
somebody
exactly. My heart is
did it.
pumping and all that stuff. Like, yeah, Rachel, we know. Um, like, remember what Joe was telling Kevin outside? Like, he was saying, like, unless, like, she could look like a mailbox or something like that, and
Mhm.
I would be crazy not to turn my life upside down and marry her. Like, he was
Mm,
feeling that strongly. He was feeling that strongly, and he was like, Kevin's giving the rundown of what he sees. He was like, I'll tell you right now, if you don't like Kathleen Kelly, you ain't gonna like her, because
right.
that's exactly who it is. And he couldn't
Mm,
believe it. And you already told, we know, and you told Kevin she's attractive.
yep.
Obviously, y'all get along based off your conversations online. Like, go up there and just be a G about it. Like, hey, this is crazy. Funny how life works, man.
You could have
This would
been
have never.
so player about the situation.
Yeah, and this is the beginning where for the second half of the film, he continues to just do some of the most horrendous things when it
Mhm.
comes to that. And it's insane. It's insane when you sit down
It
and
is.
look at it. And
It
what's really
is.
more insane is I never picked up on it until this rewatch. I never picked up on what he was doing. Like, I did, but it was still like kind of clever and cute.
No, I have not seen this shit in 20 years, 20 plus years. I was taken aback. Like, oh my God, what the fuck? Why would you continue to harass this lady?
Nah, he was really, and it gets worse. It gets worse because we'll talk about it towards the end of the film. But yeah, absolutely, man. I just looking at the door every time he comes in, he's not here.
Hmm.
Supposed to be an exciting moment, and then that the same person that Kathleen can't wait to meet is also the person she despises.
Mm.
He's the nicest person, as she describes. Like, he's the nicest person, which Joe is, but also nothing but a suit, which he is.
Which
So
he
it's
is.
just kind of like the duality of life.
Hmm.
Um, what is, I don't know if it's on you or me.
It's on you.
I was just gonna mention what we talked about earlier, the email that she sent afterwards. A
Yeah.
bunch of nothings, but they all mean more than a lot of somethings.
Hmm.
I just thought that was dope, and just you feel for Kathleen. Like, I was like, damn, man, like, why you playing with her like this?
She was genuine. She was
Yeah.
genuine and was ready to show up as her authentic self, which is already a scary thing. We say that now with meeting people online, which I fucking hate. Um, and having all of the information, she was there with nothing but some emails in the 90s,
Yeah,
and
man.
this is what you do. You play in my face like this. You stand me up. I thought at best we've developed a friendship,
Yeah.
Don't do your friends like that. I think that's where
We
it always
talk
comes for me. Like,
we always talk about that, right? So you don't do your nigga like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Not your dog.
that's it. That's it. You couldn't help me
Res-
out, but
Respect
mm-mm.
is not expected, but it's given because it's
'Cause it's
real.
real.
Yeah. All right. Frank and Kathleen break up.
That's we see each other. That's my next
All
one.
right. Go ahead. Get into it.
I love that. We've already talked about Frank and the TV anchor flirting and this, that, and the third. There is nothing like an easy breakup for me where we both know that this shit ain't gonna work. We can skip all the dramatics, all the waterworks. No one has to pretend. Um, Again, as I haven't seen this movie in a long time, I in the lowest of keys, the first time I rewatched it, I thought, damn, did Frank get with Patricia? Did Frank?
Hey man. Hey man. Frank was already out of there. Frank had been making that move.
He have been making that move, but that's how it be. So I just appreciated the lightheartedness, and he was like, "Wait, do you have somebody too?" And she didn't really have an answer for it at this
Mm-hmm.
point because now the nigga done stood you up. So we
Yeah.
ain't locked in like I thought we were, but I the idea of someone,
The
even
idea of hope.
though
Yeah.
the idea of people is very tricky, and it's something I say people like the idea of me, but when they get in, it's not for the faint of heart. It's more than a
Mm,
notion. So it can be a dangerous thing holding on to the idea of someone else, but just the idea of something beautiful and something more and something real, which was clear that Kathleen and Frank didn't have. It was a relationship, not necessarily of convenience, but just two people that are comfortable with each other, probably would have been the best of friends. You know what I'm saying? But just that spark, that genuine romance, genuine connection. We've seen them in bed, this, that, and the third, but there was no like light flirtation, nothing,
mm-hmm.
no glisten in either of their eyes towards one another. And that's so important, especially in a rom-com.
It was their brains that were telling them like this is who I'm supposed to be with
This
versus who I
part,
naturally
these
want to be
reasons.
with
Yep.
and go. And they even joked about it, like, we're perfect for each other. Like, how does this not work? And it takes
Yeah.
much more than that. Going back to even the movie theater scene, like,
Mhm.
which is part of this. Listen, I love previews just like the next person. Like, I'm real big on I want to see what's going on. But if you go to the movies now, there's a lot of commercials. I'm like, Frank, don't shush me when a fucking hot dog is singing. Like, chill out. There's nothing that you need to be quiet for right now. Like, as soon as that
Please.
green screen comes on with the rating, okay, I
Yeah.
got you. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, these fucking turn your cell phone off commercials and shit. Fuck you. I'm not
Mhm.
doing none of that.
Mhm.
Um, and him just saying, like, and once again, we talk about that box that we put ourselves in unknowingly. I
Mhm.
can never be with someone, and I love how they do this at the end of the movie. Frank says, I can never be with someone who doesn't take politics as serious as me.
What is she,
And
a
then she had,
Republican?
yeah, I know, right. And then she finally has a moment where, and we see Kathleen struggle with this, where she talks to NY152 about,
Mhm.
saying what she wants at the right time, right? And
Yeah.
she's like, you know what, fuck this. You know what, I ain't vote. The
Mm.
last mayoral election,
I
I went and
forgot.
got a manicure. I went
Uh-huh.
and got a manicure. I forgot. I ain't vote. Like, fuck you. What you gonna do now? And this nigga had the audacity to say, I forgive you. Like, that was something that's supposed to be forgiven. Like, nigga. And I love, like you said, that moment when they both kind of realized it. Like, I don't, as Ray P always says so perfectly, you ain't my nigga like that. You're not my nigga like that, man. And I tried, and it ain't really working like that. And he beats her to the punch. And I always thought it was funny how they're on the street. He could have easily told her on the street, but then he took her
Mhm.
to a restaurant to
Mhm.
tell her, which I think I've never thought this way, but I think the one thing that I hear is people try to do that so it's not an embarrassment. So someone will fly off the handle and dog your shit because you in public. Which to me, I feel like that'd be worse. Because
Yeah.
I feel I don't know, maybe some of the
I
women
know
that I've dealt with, I feel I'm about to say some of the women I've dealt with like that, they actually might go harder because we in public. like, let me just do this shit. Yeah, let me send an email. Let me send a
Right.
message like
Okay.
that.
You got some
But
more.
you said, but like you said, man, it's just the breakups, the smooth breakup. That's not
Yeah.
something that a lot of people get to accomplish, and I'm laughing about it. Like we both knew this, and
Yeah.
that's cool. Like you know what I mean. And immediately talking about his eyes lit up when he talked about old girl. Like
And you don't
nothing's happened yet, but you said what?
you don't feel like that about me. They sex was probably whack. Like
All of that,
you
man.
just
And like you said,
yeah,
he immediately was just, he didn't care because he was like, "What about you? You see anybody?" Like,
you
man,
cool.
I've been fucking around. Like, I've been making this play. Been making this play. I want to see the conversation after the interview.
No, for
After they
real.
said cut, I want to see what they did. They probably went to dinner, got some coffee,
Come
whatever.
on. Come
But yeah,
on.
shout out to them, man. I've got two more things
Mhm.
on my list.
I have one and some change. So they're
Okay.
probably the same.
So I've got the elevator and I've got the last pretty much 23 minutes of the movie.
Okay. I was gonna say Joe and Kathleen hanging out, obviously, before she knows, though that whole set of montages and then the last little bit.
Okay, so I think the
And
elevator comes before that,
yeah,
and then we'll talk about Joe and Kathleen hanging out because it's
crazy.
really it's cute, but it's sick at the same
Insane.
time.
Insane.
So just getting stuck on the elevator, just that scene to represent like, hey, none of the stuff that we take for granted every day is promised.
Mhm.
You expect to wake up, you expect to be able to get out of bed, like all of that is never promised. Like it's just you're so used to it that
Mhm.
you take it for granted. So when you have a moment in life that, all right, I didn't expect my day to go like this. I never even thought I'd be in a situation. If this were to end badly, what should I be doing with my life? And just to
Yeah.
have them realization and Joe just seeing the other people, the woman, if I ever get out of here, I'm gonna start talking to my mama.
Mhm.
So obviously there's some disconnect there. And then the other guy, the doorman, elevator operator, if I get out of here, I'm marrying Oreet. Like shout out
Mhm.
to Oreet. That's a good hearty name, Oreet. I'm
Bless.
marrying Oreet. I love her. I don't know what's been stopping me.
Mhm.
And then he looks at his girl, and she pretty much like, man, I'm getting my eyes lasered or some shit like
Bitch,
that. And
what?
he
So
like, what's your priorities about? Like, yeah,
good.
he realized, and he told her in the email. He told Shop Girl, I got stuck on the elevator for an hour.
Mhm.
Hour after that, I was moving out. I was on the boat. He didn't say boat, but pretty much just said that I was out. And then his dad came and all of that too. Because I love when he said, "What happened?" And the dad just gave that shrug, like, "Nigga, I don't know, man." And they're having that conversation about Joe's telling him, like, just that person you can be wild about, like just person you
Mhm.
can't stop thinking about. He was like, when have I ever met? When you ever know me to be with someone like that? And another like just ding ding moment where a lot of relationships are business decisions, and
Mhm.
they're this fairy tale love shit. I think a lot of the single people today, I think they probably are single because they want that fairy tale love shit and realize they're some of the last ones to realize, like, hey, I gotta make a decision, man. What we gonna do? And maybe we can fall into some fairy tale shit.
Is that
Um,
why you single?
this ain't about me. We talking about Joe and Kathleen.
Because I see, I feel like that was a little bit of a dig, even though it wasn't. But you know,
Nah, nah. In real life.
girl, um, and it's so interesting that you say that because being a realist and also a Pisces fairy is very hard.
Nah, listen, I'm in the camp, Rachel. Going back to your original question, I'm strong. I'm strongly in the camp of uh sometimes you can't explain things. It's a feeling.
Mhm.
It's just a
It's a
feeling. And you
feeling.
just know like
It's a
this ain't
feeling.
it. It's this could be cool. This could be
Mhm.
close. This could be really really close, but it ain't necessarily that. You know what I
It's
mean?
not
And I
that.
feel like if you and I think what happens is a lot of times we've experienced that before.
For sure.
So it's not like you're trying to
For
get that
sure.
same thing, but you do know the feeling. Like I know that feeling of how it is.
I want
So
this
yeah,
to evoke inspiration, to be something beautiful. And on paper, that's so, yeah, it works, but
that
it
on paper
doesn't
gets you every time.
feel good. It doesn't
Hey,
feel. It's all about that feeling, you know.
That
Yeah.
on paper gets you every time,
It'll
Rachel.
get you every time. It have you in some bullshit because some shit match.
So here, matching pajama season, by the way, too. That's what everybody see. People jump into the matching pajamas and realize, man, this motherfucker crazy. All right. So I said the last 23 minutes of the film. So
Hold on,
I'm
wait.
go ahead.
People are so crazy. So we know we talked about this whole online thing. So at one point when I'm not online anymore. Somebody sent me a message like, if we talk now, we can be in matching pajamas by Christmas. And I laughed. I thought it was a joke. I was like, haha, okay. He was like, that's funny to you. Oh,
Oh, nah, actually, yeah, it is funny, nigga. So you can't
why?
be serious.
I tried to ask him a question afterwards. It was one answer. I was like, all right, get out your feelings.
Yeah.
Why? This is done. See?
Nah, man.
Mm,
These niggas so emotional.
they're saying.
So the the last 23 minutes, which starts to me when he goes to her house with the daisies
Yeah.
up
Her
until
favorite
the end.
flower.
Is that a perfect starting point?
We can start there. Yeah.
Okay, I got you. Let's go ahead. Let's take us home.
Oh. So he comes, he knows that daisies are her favorite flower, which I can't remember, was she rambling about daisies? Or I don't think
I
she
feel like she
mentioned it
mentioned it to. I think she mentioned it to Annabelle
to
at the
Annabelle.
bookstore.
Yeah, yeah. So having kept that mental note, and even then you didn't know who I was at that point when that happened.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that Joe is thoughtful and he's mindful. Um, we didn't talk about it, but just to not necessarily back us up, but Joe genuinely had taken himself out of the equation of Kathleen's happenstance and losing the bookshop. And Patricia made mention of that, while they were going to the elevator. Like, you've taken yourself out of this. This is your fault too. Like, you're involved in this. And he just disassociated from the whole thing, which is crazy.
No, hold on, Rachel. It's worse than that. It's worse than that. So I know we're going about this. I know we're going over this last 20 minutes, but right before they actually meet at the very end,
Mhm.
there's that moment where he looks at her dead in her face and says, if you can forgive this guy for standing you up, then could you see yourself forgiving me for this small, tiny thing? Nigga, you put her business
You
for
ruined my
40-something
life.
years. The bookstore that was open, that her mom passed down to her, that was open before she was even born, is shut down because of you. And you talking about you don't see yourself forgive me for this one tiny thing. Nigga, get the fuck out of here, Joe. Stop playing
Crazy.
with me. Stop
Crazy.
playing with me, man.
Please stop fucking playing with me. So,
I needed that Halle Berry boomerang smack. Like,
Lush
nigga,
brought your ass home last night.
yeah, stop fucking playing. This one tiny nigga. I'm
It's my
jobless
life. It's my
in New
life.
York.
In
Stop playing,
expensive
man.
ass New York. Now, candidly, her home is probably rent controlled, but
Shout out to Harlem. Shout out to Camille.
shout out to Camille. But what were we talking about? The last 20, he's at the door
Oh
with
yes.
Daisies. You begin to see the buddings of a friendship there, even though he still has not obviously let her know who he was. But this is where he starts leaving breadcrumbs
So
for
let me
me. Go
let me
ahead.
jump in real quick because I have to say this because when we did our Love Jones episode, I know you weren't on that episode, Rachel. I had to mention Darius coming up to Nina's house,
Mhm.
getting the address off the check.
Mhm.
Super creep shit, peeking in.
Mhm.
Joe does the same exact shit. Cause
For
it'd be
sure.
different if this was after the montage where we see they've been kicking it. But
Mhm.
bruh, first of all, you coming up to my house unannounced. You know I'm sick. You slide in. I don't buzz you up. I
Yeah.
tell you that it's not, I don't want you up here. You slide in, then next thing I know you at my door. Even though we get the cute, she trying to make herself look good, put the jacket on. But then you just walk in, you start making tea, you start putting my
You're
shit in the
very
bag. You're,
comfortable.
you're very familiar, and I get it, but it's also just I don't know if it's different lenses that I've grown over the years. It's like, bruh, you're doing a lot. You following her in a room, giving her the tea. It's a nice gesture, but a little bit too much. Got a little bit
Yeah.
too much dip on your chip.
No, for sure. For sure. Swaggy.
Yeah.
It's swaggy for sure. And I'm not.
And they just have it lit. And here's the thing. Here's why it's swaggy because before she knows it, they're just having a regular
They're
conversation.
just having a regular
It went
conversation.
from I don't even want you up here to you making sure I'm good. Like we just having a conversation, and then yeah, it just once again conning. He's an ultimate con man. I won't say gaslighting, but you
He's
know what happened to
cunning
that?
like a fox.
Hey, maybe they did that on purpose. They had to do that on purpose.
They
That
had
can't be
to.
unintentional.
They had
That can't be.
to. Mhm. Um,
Yeah, man.
I love a natural conversation. I love figuring out the ease of something, and that's what we learned that this would be easeful, much like their online relationship. So, like I was saying, this is the start of the breadcrumbs, and I wonder when you read in your mind, do you read in voices? Like, do you hear the voice?
I see the person.
Okay.
Sometimes I can hear a voice. Like because there's been times where
Mm-hmm.
um I've had it both where somebody doesn't sound like I thought they would sound, or they don't
Mm-hmm.
look the way I think they would look. Like if
Yeah.
they make a film adaptation of a book, sometimes there's times where
Mhm.
I've had that happen. So yeah.
I wonder, and we get the narration of the of the voices in the emails of the characters, but I wonder how they each hear each other, and do you pick up on the patterns of the way they speak, even though sometimes that can be hard to pick up in writing, but being that they're both in the book industry, you probably read a little bit more than the average bear. So
Right.
I just wonder if at all they picked up on the nuances of each other's speech patterns and cadences, this, that, and the third, They might be thinking too much into it, but it's
Nah,
just something that I thought of the whole
I,
time. Like,
I think Kathleen is just so genuine that she would never even think that because she holds NY152 to this very high level of
yeah.
it's for someone she's never met or doesn't know anything personal about. Like
Hmm.
even after him standing her up, like it's just a certain she always mentions like he wouldn't do that. He's not that kind
Yeah.
of person,
Yeah. You don't know this
and
Adam
that's what I'm saying. Like, so it's
from
just very
Joe.
funny how that works, and I just think she's very genuine. While
Mhm.
he, on the other hand, knew exactly what he was doing because he even mentioned like whatever happened to that guy,
Yeah.
and then they would just randomly start air quote running into each other,
Mhm.
and he would ask her questions about conversations that Shop Girl and NY152 were having. So
Exactly.
she would be coming to him saying, "This
Mhm.
guy." So it's almost like on some best friend shit. This is what's going on with the guy that I've been talking to, and knowing it's him
Mhm.
is really like participating in entertaining these conversations, talking about what the username might be. Like, oh, it could be this, it could be that. Like, bro, this is disgusting. This is
This is
nasty.
nasty, nasty, nasty business.
Like, come on, bro. What are you doing? So, bringing up fake scenarios, talking about, he might be married. So she's literally writing this dude, like, hey,
Mhm.
it
Are you
might be too late
married?
to be asking, but are you married? And then he's like, oh, but he didn't answer the question.
You
Like,
didn't
bro,
answer the question.
Joe, you were
Again,
heinous, bro. You a serial killer.
if he ended up like in a freezer, I would get it. Cause what are you doing? Please stop playing with me.
Hmm.
Please stop
Also,
playing with me.
the whole like I couldn't be with someone who fill in the blank, right? Because they have that moment too where you see them becoming closer, and she said something about I can't be with someone with a boat. He's like, well,
Mhm.
I have a boat, man. That confirms that we'll never be together. And she has that look like, damn, like I'm fucking with Joe. Like, why did I, maybe I
Uh-huh,
could be with somebody with a boat. So it's
uh-huh,
just funny
uh-huh.
what happens when we give our brain a chance. Um, and then you can see him every day and not know it. How could you forgive this guy for standing you up, but not forgive me for a tiny little thing like putting you out of business? That's the
Mm,
nastiest. That's one of the nastiest lines in film history.
I'ma agree with you.
Yeah,
You've ruined my livelihood.
and
And shout
then
out to the inspiration to start writing again, but you've ruined my livelihood for all intents and purposes.
the whole I wanted it to be you. I wanted it to be you so badly. Like that was crazy. And a little side note, Rachel, in the movie, when they
Mhm,
meet officially,
mhm.
that 1 hour and 52 minutes. NY152.
Mm. Oh, wow. Okay.
Crazy.
Shout out to that. So, let me ask you, what happens if she doesn't go on the date to meet NY152 in Brinkley? What if she what happens if she stays with Joe in that moment? I mean, does he just tell her like,
So
"Hey, it was me"?
I think he cat. Like Joe cat, man. He ain't got the heart. He too scary. I don't think he tells her. I don't think he tells her. And I think that I think he sleeps. There's a moment in I Think I Love My Wife
Mhm.
between Chris Rock and Steve Buscemi,
Mhm.
and they were having a conversation about like infidelity.
Yeah.
And Steve Buscemi's character said, like, I can cheat on my wife and go home and sleep like a baby. Like, you can't. You're not like that. You're not built that way. But he was just saying, like, me, I can easily do that. That's how I see Joe. Joe could easily live with that lie. It would not bother him once. I don't think he'd ever get the inkling or the feeling to, you know what, I've been holding this in. It's been eating me up inside. Joe would go ahead and be with Kathleen, sleep like a baby, knowing that he conned that woman into being, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Joe from You was inspired by Joe Fox.
Ah!
Joe Goldberg might be inspired by Joe Fox because that's some shit that Joe Goldberg would do, and Joe
For
Fox would
sure.
easily
For
not
sure.
think bad about it. Like, I conned
For
this woman, and
sure.
then you can make a little thriller horror movie where one day she has to use his computer and then realizes it's been him the whole
It's been
time,
him the whole
that he
time.
turns crazy on her. But yeah, no, I don't think anything would happen. There's no scenario. Well, there is a scenario where I could see him telling her, but even without him telling her, all right. So she knows in that moment when she sees his face, like, this is not a coincidence. This has been the same nigga that's been helping me put clues together on what's
Mm,
going on, giving me advice how to talk to this person.
mm.
I'm now realizing in the moment that this nigga's been conning me this whole time. Like, how do you look at him and say, I was hoping it was you? Because she does hope it was him, but we
Yeah.
got some shit to talk about, my
You're
nigga. Why
not having
can't you
that
just tell
moment.
me?
Mm-mm. And knowing me, I might even forgive you. I might still entertain you because I be on bullshit. But in that moment, no, I'm getting my shit off. Like, are you fucking crazy?
But it's crazy, but it's hard because Joe has put on all the stops. So you really was so they're trying to take the feeling, that moment. So let's say I don't know what I want to eat, right? And I got two
Mhm,
things in mind. I got two things in mind.
mhm,
And I say I'm gonna flip a coin, and whatever it lands on, that's what I'm gonna go with. As soon as
mhm.
that coin's flipped in your head, you tell yourself what you want it to
What
land
you
on.
want?
Like,
Mhm.
I prefer it to land on heads because heads means this. The film created a moment where she had a coin flip. She had a coin flip moment where if it was to be anybody, I wanted to be Joe because I've liked this Joe person. But I
Yeah.
don't think she was thinking of. I gotta talk about all this manipulation that you've been causing for the past few
Mhm,
months. Because this isn't
mhm.
just a week. This is months.
Yeah.
They're going through seasons of
Yeah.
this bullshit. Right? And you put me out of business, my nigga. Like, how the fuck did we even end up here?
Cause where do we end in spring? And we
We
meet
end
them
in spring.
in November?
We meet them right before the holiday. So let's say Octoberish, September, Octoberish, and then we end in, I'd say, March, April.
Mm. It's crazy, crazy,
And
crazy.
even some of the time they meet, so from the time that they were first supposed to meet, I counted from when he walked into that coffee shop.
Mhm.
And so let's say that's Christmas time. So at least for 3 months. And my thing, Joe, you got her, bro. Just be you. Stop talking. Like I said,
He
stop writing her.
can't.
Stop
He
writing her on here.
he
But it
can't.
is like having a playbook. It's like having a playbook. It's like what we do, what men want. If you have access to these inner thoughts, if you have access to these things, I'm gonna go ahead and take it to my advantage and use it.
Who
Joe,
stole that
not me.
playbook?
I wouldn't do that shit. You said what?
Who stole that playbook? The Jets back in the day?
Oh, the Patriots.
The Patriots stole the Jets playbook?
Yeah, they was talking about, yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Cheating ass teams.
Um,
But, yeah, no, all of that is insane. I wish as swaggy as Joe is, I wish he would not have let her on like that because now and maybe this is 2024 brain, but now Imma think you crazy.
got to Joe Goldberg.
I don't know that we just go have an immediate love story. Now, I told you I probably would have still fucked with the nigga because I too am insane. However, we just can't gloss over this point, that you've been manipulating and gaslighting me for the last several months.
In the words of Kendrick Lamar, man, you know we got some shit to address.
Come on. Come
You know
on.
we got some shit to address because it don't work like that. But it is a feel good. But like I said, realizing now how much of a con man Joe was, it does make me the film. I can't say I gotta say it, man. It bumps down the rankings a little bit just
Yeah.
because I couldn't imagine if that was me. I'd be so pissed.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be so pissed if that was me on the other side of it. So
No, for
it is
sure.
what it is. Anything else before we get to best quotes, Rachel?
That's it. And I only have 2 quotes. So if you got
Yeah, go ahead. What you got?
a laundry list. It's a perfect blend of thoughtfulness and meanness, which I think describes me. Uh, and then all this nothing has meant so much more than so many somethings. I'm gonna hold on to that one.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact. I said one of my earlier, like that's why it's cost so much. No, that's why it's worth so much. I think that's just a bar. As corny as it is, I gotta say it. You've got mail. That is a iconic phrase
Yeah.
for all us '90s kids. Um, his dad, when he was talking to Joe, he said, "Don't do that, son. Don't romanticize them." I think that's just a bar because you can take that in any phase
That's
of
where
life.
it
Like
go left. Uh-huh.
don't romanticize shit, man. Just take it for what it is and keep shit pushing. Um, I'm gonna have to move to Brooklyn. It's funny because that's exactly where that character would love to live if it was
Yeah, for
2024.
sure.
So that was just irony. Um, you poor, sad multimillionaire. I feel so sorry for you. And it wasn't personal. That just means it wasn't personal to you, but it was personal for me.
Yeah.
That's just an eye opening. Like, hey, bro, I hate when people say that shit. Like that meant
It was
everything.
just for
And for
you.
Kathleen, like I said, they did a great job of building that character up to that point. You knew that was her life. So you telling me like you so casually saying, "Oh, don't it wasn't personal, nigga." You just shattered my life once again. Some small little thing like putting you out of business. Joe, shut the fuck up. Get out of my face.
Crazy.
Scene Stiller. I know who mine is.
Is it Brinkley?
No, I know.
Okay. In the lowest of keys, maybe Patricia.
Parker Posey as Patricia. Mine is Greg. Mine is Greg Kinnear as Frank.
That's Frank. It was between
Frank
them
is my
two.
scene Stiller, man. Frank
Yeah.
is because Frank funny as hell. Because Frank is Frank can't see himself. He
Mhm.
has no self awareness at all.
I talked about baby mama. That's a nigga and baby mama too.
He isn't baby mama. Damn, yeah, he is. He isn't baby mama. Yeah, that's my scene Stiller, Frank. Things that bother you. I think we
The
talked about it the
gaslighting.
whole. I'm about
Yeah.
to say, yeah, that's the only thing I have in my notes for that bother me. Gaslit the fuck out of Kathleen. You hear me?
Mhm.
Um,
Crazy.
Hall of Fame level. Come see about me. I don't know if this is anything
I'm
qualifies
not
to be come see
counting
about.
the bringing me daisies as come see about me. Maybe in a different circumstance, but
Yeah, because he was
no.
kind of the whole time. Any actors from The Wire? No. Wouldn't let that happen to me. Jillian, nothing with Jillian's happening with me.
Yeah.
Like, bro, you my pop's wife.
Yeah, what you want?
You moving your mouth for the kiss instead of the cheek and now it's on the lips. You got your hand on my thigh. Like, we're not doing none of that.
My
Stop
burning
playing.
eyes.
Yeah, for him to be so cool about it, like, nah, bro, you got. I'm making a scene.
For sure.
Trivia. Only trivia really is. I'm sorry. Did you have one let that happen to me?
I'm not getting an immediate relationship with you after I've realized that you have been playing in my face for months. Not an immediate relationship.
We can keep talking and kicking it, but yeah, that's a little
Yeah.
bit different. The only trivia I had is Tom Hanks is a real life Godfather aficionado. Like
Mm.
people like it's well known. Him and
Mhm.
Rob Reiner, I think, are just like can quote the movie front to back, the whole nine. So that's a big thing. He loves Godfather, which who
Mhm.
doesn't? One of the, if not the best movie ever made.
Shout out to
And
Oh, that's a Sopranos.
what you say? Yeah. Sopranos, man. We're gonna talk about Godfather at some point though on that feed. But
Mhm.
we get to the part of the episode, Rachel, where we rate the film. Too high, too low, just right.
Okay.
The average viewer rates You've Got Mail 6.7 out of 10. Too high, too low, just right. And just to give you a little bit of reference, there's a movie in particular I was looking at that we've done already. Crazy Stupid Love.
Mhm.
You gave that a 7.9 out of 10.
Mhm.
You gave Love and Basketball 8.5. I think you gave Boomerang like an 8.5 or a 9. Trying to think of all the rom-coms that we've done. I don't think we were doing ratings when we did Really Love. I'm trying to remember what you did, Malcolm and Marie. That's what I need to see.
But
either way, what do you?
rom-com.
Yeah, that's not really a rom-com. Yeah. But either way,
Too low,
6.7 out of 10. Too low, 7.1.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going too low, 7.3.
Okay.
So
let's meet in the middle.
yeah, meet in the middle at 7.2. So I think that's about right. You giving it a rose, a bouquet, or the whole damn garden?
Rose.
I'll give it a bouquet.
Okay.
If you would have asked me 10 years ago, it'd have been the whole damn garden. But
yeah.
Man, these adult eyes just see things differently.
Maybe I'll give it a half a bouquet. I give it 6 stems.
Yeah, I give it. It's a bouquet. It's
I
a
ain't
bouquet.
giving you 12.
Yeah, I'll still watch it. I'll still go back and rewatch
For
all
sure.
of this. Like, it's not going to be.
Sure.
And I probably do I like it more than Sleepless in Seattle.
Yeah.
That's Meg Ryan with the long hair. Well, Harry Met Sally, I don't know. That's a whole different thing. But it's not like my top. I wouldn't be making that list and putting it in number 2. Let's put it like that. But I do respect it as such. And yeah, can't wait to do more rom-coms, man. I just love rom-coms. That was part of the reason why I did this.
Sure.
And that's pretty much it. So episode 102. Rachel, anything else before we get out of here?
We got y'all's coming back. See
y'all coming back. Y'all be cool, man. We
OH. That's
IO, man. Go Bucks. It's we're recording literally the game starts in 38 minutes. So we're about to get out of here.
Yeah.
With that being said, we will see y'all next week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. It's holiday season, man. So I'm sure we'll have another Christmas or a real Christmas movie for you this time.
Yeah.
Rachel and myself will discuss that and take it from there. But thank you for tuning in as always. Y'all be cool. Hey, y'all be cool.
Peace out.
Yeah.
Bye.